Hey guys, Limitless Motorsports Garage here. Today I want to talk to you about choosing a new car. And I know some of you, especially our good friends, probably won't need this video. But maybe you're younger or just getting into working on your own car, and this info might even help you out. Even though I may mention a particular brand a lot, like the Mustang, it doesn't mean that's what you should go for. But I'll get into that going forward. Like most little boys growing up, I played with Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars, but when I first got really interested was back when the first Fast and Furious movie came out. I was 10 years old, and I'd watched that movie over and over again. When I finally got old enough to drive, I dreamed of putting neons and big wheels on a car, much like a lot of people who watch that movie. Even though that fad faded, it came back around like fads are wont to do. Regardless, I only had what was available at the time, which was a 1994 Mustang and a 1996 Cobra, so I grew up loving those SM95 bodied cars. I always wanted to tinker with them, but it really came to fruition when the shop was going to charge me $700 to put in a ball joint and tie rod on the car. I went home, looked up parts, and found out in the end, for $1,000 I could replace the entire suspension myself, from ball joints, tie rods, both inner and outer, springs, struts, and bushings. Over the years, I picked up information through a multitude of websites and YouTube videos, like Chris Fix, and for this repair it was no different. I went home and laid out all my parts, started a car domain, and got to work. It took me a few days figuring out some hardships, like how things that were put together some 15 or so years prior to that day would be hard to remove without some coercion. And it resorted to some angry days spent hammering away on a stubborn ball joint. But it eventually all worked out and the suspension was done, and I was proud of my work. In fact, the parts must have been good quality because, till this day, they have worked. The suspension is still really stiff and it handles well enough for being a Mustang. But had I chosen a different car, it may not have worked out so well. See, there are certain years, makes, and models that you should look at when choosing a car to work on, especially if it's your first time. And you should also be aware of an end goal when you're looking at purchasing a car. Here are a couple of things to look at or think about when purchasing a car. Number one, availability. Finding parts in the first place would be your first concern. If you want to modify or repair your car, you don't want to be stuck with a few options for parts. Look around and see if you can find a good resource for ordering parts, even if it's just a local parts store. There are some sites dedicated to entire models of cars, like Mustangs or Accords. Number two, pricing of parts. You don't want to be stuck paying hundreds for a set of brake calipers, pads, or rotors when you need to replace them. Find something with cheap parts like a mid-90s Honda, Toyota, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, etc. I can get a good set of ceramic pads from PowerStop for under $100, where other makes and models may cost you double or triple. For a first car, you should definitely have something you won't have a problem finding good or cheap parts for. And for a Mustang, it's not the cheapest car either. I mean, Civics, Accords, they are definitely cheaper, but it is in the cheap range. You don't want to go get a Ferrari. And I know if you're watching this video, that's not in your budget. So go with something simple, Accord, Civic, Toyota, whatever. Number three, community. Look around and see if there's a good community for the type of car you have. You will definitely find a community you can look to with questions for cars like most makes I mentioned before, including Civics, Accords, Mustang, and Camaros, to say the least. I've even found a community dedicated to Taurus owners, so if you look, there will probably be at least a place for that. Number four, information. Look around and see if there are common problems on your particular make and model. You may have simple problems to deal with, or your car may be plagued for years unless you go with good aftermarket parts. Case in point. The fan in my Mustang was recalled from the factory because the bearing was not properly lubricated and it led to failure. The bearing would dry up and heat, causing the fan to seize eventually and the motor would overheat. With a good OEM or aftermarket replacement, it could be easily dealt with, and it is not a significant problem. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, a buddy of mine had a mid-90s Caprice with an LT1 in it, and he had replaced the distributor multiple times. The OptiSpark was a good design, but had a failure point that significantly shortened the life of the distributor. A good aftermarket distributor would fix that. Number five, ease of working on. You'll want a car that will also be simple to work on. The less parts involved may make for a simpler and less efficient suspension, for example, but it means you can learn to work at a pace comfortable for you. I'm still learning things today, and it all started with working on suspension on my car. Another good example would be cars that aren't reliant on computer systems. So with a carburetor setup, it would be easier to work on than to hunt down bad grounds, and it would allow you to understand how the motor works and work your way towards a more complicated system. Another thing to look at is availability of local junkyards and tool stores like Harbor Freight. You can get by going to an LKQ pick your part and grabbing some Harbor Freight tools until you can afford better. With these things combined, you'll have a good understanding of what kind of car would be good for you. Some good examples would be any Mustangs from 79 to 90s. I know them very well. They're all about the same. any type of Camaros in the mid-90s and Civics and Accords in the 90s because they are cheaper and easier to work on. A quick look at what we talked about today. Number 1, parts availability. Number 2, parts pricing. Number 3, good community. Number 4, good source of information about your car. And number 5, ease of working on. Now go out there and pick you up a car. We're not taking a picture, right?
No, we're not.
Hey guys, Limitless Motorsports Garage here. Something I want to talk. No, that... No, you can keep it out. I'll just cut whatever out.
Alright.
You recording?
Yeah.
Hey guys. Hey guys, Limitless Motorsports Garage here. Something I want to talk to you about today would be choosing a new car. And I know some of you, especially our good friends, probably won't need this video. But maybe you're younger or just getting into working on your car, and this info might help you out. Even though I may mention a particular brand a lot, like the Mustang, it doesn't mean that what you... Cut that. Sorry, could you start again?
Yeah.
I'm not even smiling, so why are you laughing?
Here, hold it. Hey guys. Hey guys, it's the people from Pornhub. You're the one that forgot to pay your premium.
See how hard it is?
Hey guys, it's people at Pornhub. You forgot to pay your premium monthly subscription. So fuck you, asshole. Get your shit together and pay that shit or you're off. Fuck you.
30. Look away. I got stage fright. I'm just looking at it. It's like...